Hi, my name is Jen Rulon, and you may know me as Coach Jen. After knocking out 15 Ironman triathlons, I am an everyday, healthy human just like you. In this podcast, we will discuss how to metamorphosize into an everyday, healthy human through healthy physical habits and mindsets, as well as authentic living. Let's transform together in this journey called life and become the best, everyday, healthy human ever.
Well, hello, and welcome to the Everyday Healthy Human podcast. My name is Jen Rulon, and you may know me on the gram as Coach Jen. So today, our guest is Jason Barger, who is a dear friend of mine, as we connected, of course, on the gram, and we have maintained friendship for quite some time. I don't even remember how long we've known each other, but we connected as athletes, as triathletes, and then as coaches. So we really have come to really respect one another as coaches, as human beings. And now we have really developed an amazing friendship, and I value that. So thanks for joining me, Jason. Welcome.
Well, thank you. And you too. And yes, I've always been so proud of all the things I've seen you've accomplished throughout the years.
Well, thank you.
Kudos to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So give the followers like an elevator speech of who you are as a person, who you are as an athlete, and who you are as a coach.
So Jason Barger. I've been doing triathlons, running, adventure races for probably over 25 years. Along with that, I'm a massage therapist, and I work in the first responder field. So as being a coach, I've always been more of an inspirational coach. Lately, I have started trying to push more running coaching, but for the most part, it's just been that. I'm in the process of becoming a breathwork facilitator and really just whatever else is out there. I'm really homing in on the holistic side of life.
Love it. And where do you reside?
I'm out of Miami,
Florida. Okay. So if any triathletes or athletes are heading down to Florida to do a triathlon, we'll put all of Jason's information for your massage therapy as well.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully you won't need him as a first responder.
We hope not. No. Mostly just as a massage therapist and as a coach.
Yeah. So before we get into the nitty gritty of what we want to talk about, because I really love what your articles that you've written and a couple of things that you've talked about that eventually will be in your book, right? Can you tell everybody about your, I think what really stuck out to me was Ironman France.
Okay.
That story. I think people will resonate because I want to share with people or the followers that, we all started somewhere. We towed that starting line, whether it was a 5K, whether it was a 10K, whether it was a half Ironman.
Okay. So I guess I'll start with Ironman Florida because that was my first one.
Good point.
And that was really, it was what was the next thing. And I think that's the one thing I want to talk to all your audience about is you have to get started somewhere. And don't ever be afraid of, because a lot of people are like, well, I need to start at a 5K. I need to start at a mile run. If your heart's up for it, then do what you need to do. And I know a lot of people who've started at 5K and next thing you know, they got involved in an Ironman and they go, you know what, that's what I want to do. I want to be an Ironman. And it does hold a little bit of a prestige, and especially in the athletic community, that you're an Ironman. I mean, everybody knows that phrase. And so my biggest takeaway for that is don't let anybody tell you can't do it. Make sure you get the right coach and make sure that you take the time to make time for yourself. And that's something that I could definitely emphasize with athletes nowadays is that everybody's going a mile a minute. We want to be on the social media. We want to be on the gram. We want to be on Facebook. We want to be here. And we have jobs. We have kids. We have all sorts of things. And we stop putting ourselves first. And like anything in this world, it equates to if you're on like an airplane and something happens. What happens? Well, the first thing is the oxygen drops. And what do they always tell you? Put your oxygen on first. And then you can help everybody else. And I find that just a lot of people in this world are not doing that. They're going. How can I help that person? How can I help the next person? How can I keep my family going? How can I keep my kids going? but they don't want to take care of themselves. And so with athletics, if you're going to get into it and you're going to do the Ironman, you're going to do a 5K, you're going to do a 10K, take that time to become the person you need to be and take care of yourself first than anything else. Once you have that idea, that mindset that I'm doing good for myself so I can do greater for others, you could become any athlete that you want to be. And either a 5K up to an Ultraman, but take that time and become who you need to be, because you'll get better, more mentally strong, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You will grow as a person. And because of that, you can help other people, especially your family or your loved ones or anybody else that you come in, even your own teammates. If you dedicate the time that you have for yourself, that's the biggest thing. And that's kind of what I found out with doing my first Ironmans and just even the first 5Ks. And taking the time for myself to train just makes you so much more mentally stronger. And you'll be able to keep up with anything. Even to this day, I think that's the one thing I always try and challenge myself with is not very smart, but get up and just go run.
Right.
And then that's just kind of like a border of like where I am physically. And if you could start doing that and get to that point, you always know that you have that mental toughness to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big thing in this world. One thing I've always noticed is that people refuse to embrace the suck.
Yes.
And as an athlete, you have to get to that point in your world. Even if you're just a starting off walk run person,
yeah,
you have to keep pushing yourself to that point. You can back down, but you need to at least once or twice a week do a workout or something that pushes you to become the best person you can be. And that's embracing that suck.
I think the biggest thing that I'll tell people who hate running, if you don't like running, then go for a walk instead, or go for a hike, or do something,
Absolutely.
Do something that you enjoy. Just because your friend's doing a 5K or a marathon doesn't mean you have to do it with them, but maybe you can bike the marathon,
Absolutely. And not only that, because it's cross training itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't need to get out there. What I've really found is that running is truly a lot of form. Mm. And that's one thing I try and do with all my athletes. You can say, I want to go run this or X, Y, Z. I want to see how your form is first. I'm never going to give you a workout without looking at your form first, because that 1 mile that I might give you might just completely destroy you because you're just not used to running. And if we could just take a look at your stance and see, wow, okay, let's just work on that. That's all I want to do. I'm not going to give you a real workout. I want to see how well you could just position yourself so that your form is proper, and to get them out that way.
Yeah.
So
I'm a big advocate of pose method running, and that's something I've coached for years. And just this past week, I worked with Jackie, who was one of my athletes, and we worked on our pose, and you could see the difference, like the shift that she made within 20 minutes of us talking. I was like, you're leaning with your chest and not with your hip, and then she leans with her chest and then she's got that lower back issue because she's got her butt sticking out, Yeah. And then she tries to go and run that for 5K, 10K. And she's like, oh, my back's bothering me. It's like, well, you could see why.
Going back to your thing of discussing a race.
Yeah.
I would have to say the biggest race that I saw the biggest difference in was a half marathon I was doing. And it's about probably 2 years ago. And as I'm starting off, I'm running tall, like you're supposed to be, and running and going, and I'm maintaining a good pace. Where I'm going to get to around 9, 10, I just looked at my time. I'm going, man, I'm a minute behind what I should be doing. What is going on? And then I just realized I felt myself slumping over more. And I go, no, you know what? Let's stand up tall. And I stood up tall. And next thing you know, I finished and I started dropping my time back to where I wanted to be. And it was great because for some reason, there happened to be a photographer on the course at the same time. So I have a beginning photo, I have a middle photo, and I have an ending photo.
Perfect.
And you can see the complete difference in just the slumping over, trying to run. And then my final photo looked exactly like my first one. So, and it just, you get back the pace, you get back what you need. So that was a very important lesson for myself. We always want to preach, but when you look at it, you go, wow, it really is true. You need to look at all that.
Yeah. When you did, what year did you do Ironman Florida?
A long time ago. I would say that. And it's always funny because I love Ironman, but they changed the signs.
Yeah.
So before, it used to be all white signs at the finish line. The finish line used to had like a white finish, and then it switched to a black, and then it switched to the black finish. And so I always tell people I did Ironman when it was a white sign.
Oh, wow. You sure did. That was
yes.
A while ago. That was like the Dave Scott, the Mark Allen, the Paula Newby Fraser.
Like, oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Like the, oh my God. Yeah. That was even before Chris McCormick and Macca and all before Chrissy Wellington.
They were just coming up.
They were just coming up. I do remember that.
And the timing too, like nobody had really talked about Ironman. And I remember that there was one book, it was 13 weeks to a 13-hour Ironman. And that was the first triathlon book I really ever, besides the Triathlete's Training Bible.
Yes.
And at that time, 13 hours was considered like, hey, you're doing a good job. It's almost like running a 4-hour marathon. That's like the peak that you want to be at. And, nowadays it's just amazing with the amount of training and the bikes and everything that's come along. Now that time is completely dropped. Even for your beginning amateur athletes, just by the training that's been taking place.
My first Ironman was Ironman Wisconsin in 2002. I had the white signs.
Yes.
And I did it 12:58:59. So I was like right under that 13 minute. Hey, I was under 13, right? Doesn't matter.
And it taught me a lot. Ironman Florida taught me a lot.
Yeah.
I really didn't know how to prepare for it yet. Every nutrition was so new to everybody. The bikes, and just going. It was a rough race, but that really is the emphasis of embrace the suck.
Yeah.
It poured down rain on the bike course to where you could barely see like 7 feet in front of you. And then you come in and then you had to transition. And I remember getting my socks wet because the minute you stepped into a certain area, just the whole thing sank and it was just all water. And you just kept going. You got out there and you kept going.
Yeah. You embrace the suck.
Yeah. And I ended up getting IT band syndrome about probably mile 21 as a marathon. And yeah, it was just, you found your tribe and you kept going and you kept pushing, which builds that mental fortitude. It really does in life. If you accomplish even a 5K and that's your goal and you don't quit, you keep walking, you keep running, you keep jogging, whatever you need to do, it just pushes you that much farther ahead as a person. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing. I've seen so many transformations from people.
Yeah.
That were like, man, I did not know that I could do this.
Yeah.
And now they are.
Speaking of transformations, and sort of like a mix of transformation and community, right? So when we talked last week about our conversation just to get ready for the podcast, you brought up a really cool analogy. Can you share that analogy with the followers about the CAB and LAB?
So I came up with 2 acronyms, and one of them is LAB, which is Life Accountability Buddy. And then the other one is CAB, which is Cardio Accountability Buddy. And in this world, we all need support. Mm-hmm. And it's finding those people in your world, in your tribe, that can be that support for you, to be that LAB, or be that CAB. And as you're going through this training, whatever you want to run, whatever you want to be, whatever you want to do, you need to find somebody who wants to be that LAB for you. And it's a tough thing. And they have to understand the responsibilities of who it is. And it's not going to be that, it could be your best friend. It could be your wife. It can be your spouse. It can be your son or your daughter. But somebody that's going to be there and go, Mom, Dad, did you do this today? Did you push as hard as you could do? Or did you do anything? And it's everything from, did you eat today? Did you hydrate? Did you get to work on time? Just somebody who's always there, who just has that life accountability. Mm-hmm. That's just somebody who, and it goes both ways. So you can be that person's LAB can be yours and you can be theirs. And it's you just somebody to call up and be like, hey, how's your day? Did everything go okay? All right. Well, you know what? Were you 1% better than you were the day before? If you're not, right now, it's not too late.
Yeah.
Do 10 push-ups.
Right.
That's 10 push-ups you didn't do the day before. Or did you not drink enough water? Well, hey, listen, let's not have so much coffee today. Let's have a couple of glasses more of water. And just somebody who keeps that going. And then with the cardio, with the cab, it's the same thing. It just brings it more down to a level of training to where, nobody likes running when it's dark.
No.
And so, or late at night, or after you've maybe had too many one night, or you have a rough night with your kids and you didn't get enough sleep. But just somebody to call, be like, hey, did you go for a walk today?
Mm-hmm.
Did you do this? Did you go to the gym? Let's go. I got 10 minutes. Let's go do a couple weights. And that's that person. And because all of this, life itself, you need support. You need that person who wants to step into your life and go, I got you. Let's hold my hand and let's do this. It reminds me of the Spartan race I did. And the people in front of me, they were running. And I could just tell that one person started like dropping back a little bit. And the person put their hand out and held on to him and said, come on, let's go. And in the fire service for us, it's a 2 in, 2 out. You never leave your buddy.
Love that.
And that's the 2 in and 2 out rule, that if you're going in someplace that you're not sure, and if you're going into an area that can be potentially dangerous for you, you bring 2 people in and you take 2 people out. And that's just life itself. So just having that accountability, that person that's always going to be there, that's going to hold your hand and make sure you keep going through whatever you need to go through.
Yeah.
That's life itself.
I was just going to say, it's interesting that we're talking about this, because yesterday on Rulon Racing Instagram page, I was thinking about my journey, right? And I was thinking about like, wow, I had my mom and my grandpa like cheering me in my stadium when I was 17 years old. And then 28 years later, my mom's sitting there watching my race. My grandpa's up in heaven watching my race, and it's like, oh my God, I had the world helping me do what I wanted to do, what I said I was going to do. And it reminds me of my favorite book called The Alchemist. And I don't know if I'm going to botch this quote up, but it's like, when you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. So like, if you have a community around you, they're going to rise you up, build you up, be who you need to become to be better tomorrow for your future self. So that's exactly what you're talking about, your cab and your lab. I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I love it.
No, and it's just like when you look at your kids, or anybody that's around you. This is a nice little quote that I've always seen. And it's where if there's 4 people and your kids are that 5th person, whatever it's going to be, those 4 people will raise you up to the next level.
Yeah.
And so that's an important thing for me as a father right now, to make sure my kids get into the right crowd of people to be with.
That's right. How old are your kids?
13 and 11.
Ooh. Let's talk a little bit about your other concept of still, STILL. So let's talk about that.
Okay. So with doing a lot of research and just understanding athletics itself, we all know that when we are put in a situation that kind of stresses us out, the first thing that goes up is our heart rate. And so you always feel that almost tacking out, that, oh my gosh, that deep breath, that holding your breath in. And coming up with still is stop, 3 breaths, investigate, locate, and then lead. And so with any situation that you have that presents that, oh my gosh moment, just stop right where you are. Take 3 breaths. And the way I designed the 3 breaths is more of the box breath method, which is breathe in for 5, hold for 5, let out for 5, hold for 5. And that's been shown to really reduce the amount of stress that's in your body at that time. So you're actually starting to slow that heart rate down. And so the breath, by using your breath, you're actually slowing everything back down to a somewhat of a normal state. You're still going to be a little bit up because you're in a situation, but it's going to return all of your facilities back to you. Your mind's not going to be in this like blank state. You're going to get back to that. Okay, I know what I need to do. Everything's going to start working again. Then from there, you get to investigate what you're going after. For us, it would be, what kind of scene am I on? Is this a fire? Is this a car accident? Is this a medical call? But it can be anything. It can be a person who's in a business meeting and all of a sudden their boss calls on them and says, "Hey, where's this report?" Or what's your opinion of this? It can be an athlete at the starting line of a race. I mean, everybody knows they get hyped up for the first time they ever start doing a race. And it's just breathe, bring it back down, then investigate. What do I have to do? I have to run this race. Mm-hmm. I gotta make sure I gotta do my strategy. I have to understand that it's when the gun goes off, people are going to be sprinting away, and I have to make sure that I run my own race.
Yes,
and not get caught up on that. And then, investigate, locate. So for us, it's locate the problem and the issue, and then lead. Take your crews or take yourself and lead yourself to that finish line, and come up with your game plan and know that that's the game plan you're going to stick with. Get out there and accomplish what you need to do.
Love it. Like even today, like I felt a little bit, we talked about it in the beginning, I felt a little bit of anxiety this morning because I was like, oh my God, I've been traveling this last week in Costa Rica. Like I'm trying to figure out like, oh yeah, I have to work. I have to do some podcasts. Wi-Fi was crappy, mm-hmm. And it's like this morning I was like, no, you just stop. What do you have until 12:30 to just get your stuff together, get your things together, put the earphones on, put the music on, whatever. Take your breath, make sure you meditate, bam, you're going to get your exercise when you go for your hike for your waterfall. So it's sort of the same. I mean, it's a simple thought process, but sometimes we don't stop and we don't take that breath and we just try to go. We go for that fight mode, right? I got it. I'm tough. I got it, where it's the fight or flight. And sometimes it's easier for us to fly.
Oh, absolutely. And this, I think it's the way the world's really perceived us right now.
For sure.
We get so much information dumped on us every day, so much that it's like, I have to be this, I have to be this person, I have to do this. And it's not. Be yourself. And, I wish more people learned to slow down and just take that breath, take that moment, be present. I find that that's a huge thing that's missing out of us right now. Even with sports, and what's the next thing? What are we going to do next? Like we just finished this 5K, we just finished this Ironman, we just finished this marathon. What's the next goal? No, stop, be present, bring that gratitude forward that you just accomplished something in your life, and allow that to just sit with you for a little bit before you go on to the next thing.
Love it.
Everyone wants to just rush.
Mm-hmm. And it's all for the gram, right? It's all for for social. Like it's just, I mean, we've had this conversation. That could be another podcast, but
we will have another podcast.
That's right. So let's, I have one question for you before we say goodbye to our followers, because I respect everybody's time. What is the one final thought? Because I'm big about transformations, right? I'm big about rebirthing yourself, like going into that beautiful butterfly, right? So what is the one final thought you can give to our listeners about how to start their own transformation and become their own beautiful butterfly?
Wow. I think it goes back to the breath one more time. I think that to become that butterfly, you have to understand where you are now.
Twitter that, y'all. Twitter that, man.
So it is so true. You have to understand where you want to be and by slowing down, by asking yourself those simple questions. Where am I right now? What do I want to be? And if you're religious, pray. You have to put that in there and just ask, what am I here for? And by doing that and slowing down, you will then create who you need to be, because it's going to be there. Your path is set. Sometimes you just have to believe, and you have to just slow down there and let the universe or God take you where it needs to take you. And you'll know when you're ready. You'll know when it's going on. I've seen that in you. We all have to slow down, change things, and really just associate like, what's going on in my life right now? What can I leave what can I take with me? And where am I currently that's going to make me a better person?
Beautiful. Jason, thank you so much for joining me today. Where can my followers find you?
So I have a website. It's bargerfitness.com. It's in the works still. So
that's okay.
We have that.
That's okay.
Yeah. And then really my biggest thing is Instagram. We never stop training.
Right.
You always you're always continuing to do what you need to do in your life.
Exactly.
And so
Very
training
good.
never ends. Not just only for running, but for life itself.
Beautiful. Well, we will put all that information in the show note. Please reach out to Jason. Please follow. Please, if you are in Miami and you are doing a race down there and you want to get a massage, always contact Jason as well.
Yes.
But followers, if you guys are loving, if y'all are loving the Everyday Healthy Human podcast, I would love for you to rate, subscribe, share this episode with your friends, leave a comment. And if you need more information about coaching with me, go to jenrulon.com. I do have spots available, or let's just get on a call and let's talk. Let's see how we roll. But anyways, thanks, Jason. And down in Costa Rica, we say pura vida and ciao.